If you're a parent and your child goes missing, that is an emergency. But if they are labeled a runaway, it might not be treated that way. They could be overlooked, dismissed, or abandoned by the system.
Was your granddaughter trafficked?
Yes, she was. The system is broken. It is messed up.
For more than a year, I've been investigating the term runaway and how our missing kids are handled. And what I found is that this is an issue that impacts thousands of families across North Texas. This is labeled. Labels tell us a lot. But sometimes what a label leaves out can leave us lost.
It literally cause you to have so much anxiety.
Keena McDonald's granddaughter disappeared from this apartment building in downtown Dallas on April 27, 2022.
This was the first time.
Very first time.
She was 15.
She's not knowledgeable enough to run away and survive.
The teen, who we're not naming, left without a phone. Her family could not prove she'd been snatched, and she was older than 9, so Dallas police labeled her a runaway.
It was just said that she's just another runaway. She'll come back. I mean, most runaways come back.
Do you think that her case was treated like an emergency?
It wasn't.
In the state of Texas, a child as young as 10 years old is considered to have run away from home if they are missing without clear evidence they were kidnapped or lured away. Dallas police, like many departments in North Texas, have policies that mirror this law, creating a difference between high-priority investigations to find missing kids and lower-level reports of kids who, again, can be as young as 10. Police determined they've left on their own, and the fact that they are missing is not enough for police to assume they are in danger.
Detectives never followed it up with us. We will have to call them.
Ask you, Lord God, to strengthen her again today, Father God.
Her family prayed. They made their own flyers, and they reached out for news coverage.
Just come home, baby. Do whatever you gotta do to get home. I miss you.
In late May, 24 days after she disappeared, McDonald's granddaughter walked into an Arlington police station just before 6 in the morning.
She was forced into a lot of things that she shouldn't have had to endure.
I spoke with her mother and her victim advocate that day outside of the hospital where she was being examined hours after she was recovered.
It's horrific, the things that she's endured.
Her family says she escaped the people who took her and kept her. Dallas police would only confirm detectives from the Crimes Against Children unit were brought in.
Was your granddaughter trafficked?
Yes, she was.
And this case mirrors many others that we've seen right here in North Texas. Last June, a 16-year-old went missing in Denton. Police posted to Facebook that she left voluntarily. She was found in Indiana 46 days later. Veronica Baker's 15-year-old daughter went missing in Dallas this year on February 22nd.
She never came back from school.
How was it told to you that your daughter's case was classified?
She was considered runaway and missing.
Her daughter was found by police in Phoenix, Arizona, more than 40 days later.
She wasn't found in a good situation. That's all I gotta say. She wasn't found in a good situation at all.
And last July, a girl was recovered from a suspected sex trafficking ring in Dallas 26 days after she was reported missing from Waxahachie. She was 11. All of these girls were initially labeled runaways. Families told WFAA their cases were not treated like emergencies even after they'd been missing for weeks. Dallas police upgraded McDonald's granddaughter to critical missing after she'd been missing for 2 weeks because she has a health condition. According to DPD, a child who is missing is upgraded to critical only if they are younger than 10 years old. Children older than 10 can be classified as critical if they have medical or intellectual needs, or officers find evidence to believe they are in danger.
When a child becomes a critical missing, it is very important that we find the child as quickly as possible.
Katrina Shedd is the assistant chief over DPD's Investigations Bureau.
So we actually are actively involved and actually driving around and doing a lot of the field work that we probably wouldn't do on a missing child.
The portion of Texas law that addresses missing child cases defines a missing child as anyone younger than 18 who is missing. But many police departments use the part of the law that defines a runaway to create their own separate policies based on age and circumstances.
Because a lot of times on a missing child, a child has sometimes voluntarily left. We go through the normal process of trying to find where the last location where the child was at, maybe call the school.
If the child is not found, how does it kind of progress after that time?
It's not dropped, but it's not escalated to the next level, because it only escalates to the next level if we get additional intel that will tell us that it needs to be escalated to the next level.
Keena McDonald says she did not see more urgency even when her granddaughter's case was escalated to the next level.
Every time we had a sighting, somebody said they saw her, the detective never showed up, not one time. This is what they said: they have too many cases to focus on just one.
On average, the FBI receives more than 359,000 reports of missing kids every year. That is almost 1,000 kids a day. And each year, at the end of the year, about 30,000 children are still missing. Data from the Texas Department of Public Safety shows since 2018, on average, more than 9,000 kids are reported missing every year from these North Texas counties. Most, under Texas laws, are considered runaways, like Keena's granddaughter, whose case, more than 2 years later, has had no arrests or updates.
The system is broken. It is messed up. When they designed it, I don't think they had different types of things in mind.
Advocates say every moment that a child is missing is a moment they are in danger. But how that danger is prioritized can look very different from city to city, even within our region. I'm investigative reporter Morgan Young, and I spent months requesting and reviewing dozens of police department policies from around our area. And I learned that what qualifies a missing child to be labeled as high priority depends on where you are.
I need help, y'all. The police ain't getting here fast enough. We on the corner of Martin Luther King.
Damon Mays streamed live on Facebook as he and his sister recovered their 12-year-old niece from this busy Dallas intersection in December.
She looked like she had been drugged.
This is who she was actually with.
This woman, who Mays confronted on camera,
You over here selling my niece.
was arrested and charged for forcing the 12-year-old into commercial sex acts and keeping the money.
Had we not got that tip from Facebook, we could be getting a call saying she was dead.
The child had been missing for 4 days. Mays said Dallas police did not treat their case with urgency.
We let them know she had seizures. We let them know that she had mental issues, and they still didn't want to sound the alarm.
So they took matters into their own hands, made their own flyers, and posted them to social media.
If we put it on Facebook, and in a matter of next 24 hours after we posted it, we had a lead. Just imagine if they would have went ahead and put an alert out. She may not even had to go through the things she endured.
Cases like this one got me asking questions about how police departments in our area respond if you report your child missing. And what I found is that the way a police department labels your child is important. For Dallas police, the label of critical missing is crucial.
Critical missing child is something that we actually are on all day. It's a 24-hour operation.
Katrina Shedd is the assistant chief over investigations for the Dallas Police Department.
We actually are actively involved in actually driving around and doing a lot of the field work that we probably wouldn't do on a missing child.
DPD defines a critical missing child as either younger than 10 years old, having a mental or physical disability, or as a child police believe is in danger.
They have to prove that you've been abducted. That is absolutely absurd and crazy.
And because they couldn't do that, their niece is 12 and she had left home before, they say their case was written off.
If you have reported them as running away from home before, they're surely not treated as an emergency.
I spent months requesting and poring over the police policies for more than 20 departments in North Texas. And from city to city, the response to the report of a missing child can be very different. Some departments have their own standards for when a child is missing and, quote, at risk. And almost all of them considered how young the child is. But how young is young enough to warrant an active search? That depends on the city. Many cities, like Frisco, Grapevine, and Denton, have policies that label a child 13 or younger as unusual circumstances. Fort Worth ups the investigation if the child is younger than 12. In Plano, they have to be younger than 11. And in all policies, the response from police depends on whether the officer believes the child left on their own and if they believe the child is in danger. In fact, Garland and Dallas policies state that officers may not conduct a continuous search for a young child if the child is, quote, mature beyond their chronological age or is a frequent runaway.
A missing child is a missing child regardless of how they went missing.
John Bischoff works for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC.
We've seen our reports increasing over the past 10 years.
One of the initiatives NCMEC is known for is the creation and distribution of flyers like these to help find missing kids.
Without that image, what are we putting out to the public?
The Mays asked that same question in their case.
They never asked for her photo. How are you gonna find her?
But Texas law does not list getting a photo as a requirement for investigating a missing child, and less than half of the policies I reviewed listed getting a photo of a missing child as a required step in the investigation. What nearly every policy did have, a different, often lesser standard for searching for children labeled runaways, kids they've determined left on their own and are not assumed to be in danger just because they're missing. Some department policies don't even require officers to take reports of so-called runaways in person.
We don't use the term runaway anymore.
After DPD received criticism for how it handled a different high-profile case of a teen who'd been labeled a frequent runaway, the department changed its policy to change its label for missing kids, even kids who left on their own, in October of 2023.
When we say younger than 18, this is a missing child.
I got a copy of this memo that was sent out to DPD officers announcing this change with updated labels and steps for investigating missing people.
There are 3 steps listed for investigating a missing child, formerly known as a runaway. 4 steps for children DPD labels high risk for human trafficking or exploitation. And then there's the critical missing label, which has 14 steps, the only label that requires officers to get a photo of the victim.
Did it change the way that you respond to the reports of someone who's under 18 who may not be in that critical bucket?
It did not. I think we have always aggressively responded to a missing child report.
In 2023, 93% of the reports NCMEC received of missing children were children who had run away. 74% of them were children 15 and older, past the age that would trigger an emergency response from many departments in our area.
They face a great deal of unfortunate circumstances while they're missing. How are they surviving? How are they getting money?
Dallas police received reports of more than 1,300 missing children from January 1st through the first week of November last year. And on November 7th, 135 of those kids were still missing. The department posts photos and descriptions of critical missing children on its blog. Last year, the department posted a total of 7. They were all found.
I've spoken with many families who say, like the Mays, they were never asked for a photo of their child when they reported them missing, and instead had to make homemade flyers like this one. And in many cases say these homemade flyers actually led to their children being recovered. If you would like to learn more about how your local department labels and investigates missing child cases or so-called runaway cases, we have actually built this interactive map based on the general orders we reviewed. You can find it right now on this story on our website. Now, the policies that I found and reviewed are all rooted in state law. And in Texas, running away from home is actually against the law, a law that has not been updated in decades. And what I found is that every year, hundreds of children in Texas are arrested and in some cases detained for running away, even if they're a victim.
It's devastating.
The first time Kelly Jones saw her daughter this way was in a children's hospital. She was 14.
They come and they shackle her up, and that was when I lost it. They put her in shackles and took her to the detention center. It was a scene. I was hysterical.
Especially because just before her daughter was arrested, Jones thought she'd lost her.
She was on a respirator for about 4 days. The nurse said that she would not make it. We had literally called in our family from out of town. Like, we were not expecting her to live.
A fentanyl overdose fueled by a violent sexual assault from a stranger. But the reason Jones's daughter was arrested was because on the day she was assaulted, she'd run away.
They charged her with a felony for escaping from her mother.
It was not the first time she'd run, and it would not be the last time she'd be arrested for it.
She's been in juvenile detention.
Kelly Jones says her daughter has been assaulted and recovered from sex trafficking multiple times. Running is her trauma response, a cycle of addiction, stints at treatment centers, and this.
The belt, the shackles, the everything. And that took a lot to get my mind wrapped around that this is their protocol.
Because despite being a victim of trafficking and assault and an addict, the child left home voluntarily. And in Texas, that is against the law.
This is one of the more challenging laws that still exist in this state.
On September 1st, 1973, a law went into effect in Texas defining the voluntary absence of a child from his home without consent as conduct indicating a need for supervision. Then, in 1995, lawmakers used that language to define running away and made it a status offense. And that wording has not changed in more than 50 years.
We've had so much more research come out since then, and we have, quite frankly, new problems that we weren't dealing with back then.
Byron Sanders was the president of Big Thought, a Dallas-based youth advocacy group, for nearly 7 years.
This is a huge trapdoor toward trafficking. This is a place where people who are experiencing abuse at home suffer tremendously, and then they get re-traumatized.
Federal law prevents states from putting kids in secure facilities like jails for status offenses like running away. But states are allowed an exception when a court order is violated, meaning they can't put a kid in jail for running away, but they can detain them for running away after a judge ordered them not to.
So she had taken off.
In Kelly Jones's case, each time her daughter has been taken to juvenile detention, it was for violating probation by running away, including a time where she was assaulted after leaving a safe house where she was ordered to stay.
Even though she was trafficked, she ran from the safe house, so that's escape. So she goes to the hospital. She goes to the psych ward. Again, they come, they detain her, they pick her up, and she goes to juvenile detention for 2 more months.
We're one of the few that still does this in the country.
Data from the Texas Juvenile Justice Department shows that each year, hundreds of Texas kids are arrested and taken to detention centers for running away, and hundreds more are arrested and taken to non-secure residential facilities. Through an open records request, I found that more children in Dallas County are referred to the state's juvenile justice system for running away than in any other county in the state, including Harris County, which is the state's most populated county. Now, these referrals have dropped significantly since the pandemic in 2020, but even last year, Collin and Denton counties referred more than twice as many children for running away than Harris County.
So I think there was a well-intentioned belief behind, if we create a status offense, it's additional leverage for a family to be able to say, hey, come on home, let's work this out. But I think we need a more expansive definition of a runaway young person.
For advocates, this approach is the foundation for a stigma that not only creates a barrier to urgently searching for missing children, but it creates a space for vulnerable, traumatized kids to be seen as criminals.
It's such a detriment to survivors that we would lock them up and kind of fuel the lie that this is their fault.
Lindsay Speed runs Traffic 911, the group that law enforcement calls to help recover child sex trafficking survivors around North Texas.
We do see a lot of the young people we serve get locked up after recovery from trafficking. And it's confusing how they're able to lock them up with a runaway type of offense, but we see it a lot.
Kelly Jones has spent hours looking for her daughter when she was missing and seeing her whenever she can once she's been found, even if it's like this.
She's going to make mistakes. Does that mean we put her back in jail? And these are our children. We're here to fight for them. And if we don't, we're going to continue to see the results that we do every day.
During the most recent legislative session, State Senator Nathan Johnson of Dallas filed a bill that would have removed running away from home as a status offense from state law. The legislation missed a deadline to make it out of committee, so lawmakers didn't vote on it. But when Senator Johnson filed similar legislation in the previous session back in 2021, it passed the House nearly unanimously before getting stuck in the Senate.
Clearly, there's bipartisan support in the legislature. We just need to make it a priority in the Senate. The criminal justice system is designed to, ideally, help kids stay out of the criminal justice system. That isn't tailored to kids who are having these kinds of difficulties at home. Kids who might be trafficked, kids who might have been kicked out of the home, kids who are experiencing extreme mental difficulty at the time.
But we found that is the case for many vulnerable children in our area and across the state. And until it's addressed, advocates say, and data shows, this problem continues to grow, with one group particularly at risk.
Most of the youth we've served have the runaway designation.
What does that mean?
Not a lot is done.
But by the time a child's case comes across Lindsay Speed's desk, there's a lot to do.
What we get to do is pair highly trained advocates to every single child sex trafficking survivor here in North Texas.
Helping heal children who have been abused, exploited, and sold. Children who, in most cases, law enforcement did not continuously search for because they labeled them a runaway and did not assume they were in danger.
Every once in a while, one of our cases hit that Amber Alert mark where the cavalry comes out, and it can be so frustrating to sit here and know that, you know, last quarter we served 200 kids and only one of them had that.
The buying and selling of sex, like any other industry, comes down to supply and demand.
The easiest supply is vulnerable kids. When a girl's out on the street, she's just primed for someone to pounce upon that vulnerability. She can't take care of herself. She can't rent a hotel room. She can't rent a car. You know, she can't do anything.
In 2023, the city of Dallas started adding the number of children who were recovered who were deemed to be at a higher risk of being trafficked to its human trafficking dashboard. And since then, of the 258 children who have been recovered, again, only children who have been labeled as high-risk victims, 180 of them had originally been labeled a runaway. That's just at about 70%, with the largest demographic of those children recovered being Black. In fact, in Traffic 911's 15-year history, a majority of the children they've served have either been Black or Hispanic, with the largest group at 41% being Black children, mostly Black girls.
Black and brown girls are consistently labeled runaway. In disproportionate numbers. And we've had parents tell us, if my daughter was white, she would have been classified as missing.
And do you agree with that when they say that?
Yeah.
It's a huge deal, and they all should be taken seriously.
Derica Wilson is a co-founder of the Black and Missing Foundation, a group that works to help spread awareness and support families of Black people who are missing. She also spent more than 20 years in law enforcement in Virginia and Washington, D.C.
They're not seeing our children as children. They're seeing our children as adults.
Both Wilson and Speed believe that systemic racism and implicit bias create a stigma that a Black girl who is missing is likely not in danger and shouldn't trigger an emergency response.
They're a runaway, they're grown, they are doing their own thing. In this world we live in now, we cannot afford to assume anything's okay when a kid goes missing. I don't care where they go or how long they're gone.
The Black and Missing Foundation is well known for creating social media flyers and posting updates on cases.
Law enforcement, put that missing person on your website. That is the bare minimum that the agency can do.
But it's a support many families told us they were surprised they did not receive and had to do on their own.
I'm not surprised. So often families, they're like, you all are our last hope.
Hope is a foundation. For Lindsay Speed's team at Traffic 911.
This is not going away. We're not working ourselves out of a job anytime soon.
Their job is to help children heal. But she says the goal should be to find them before their case comes across her desk.
We have to level up our urgency. The longer they go missing, the much more likely it is that they're going to be trafficked.
That's all for our Labeled Special. We hope this encourages you to advocate for yourself and the vulnerable people in your communities. If you see something that looks suspicious, report it. And if you have a tip for the I-Team, you can send an email to investigates@wfaa.com.